My name is Ebere, but you can call me Big Mama. I'm the creative director of Bell Signatures. If you're yet to subscribe to my channel, please go ahead and do that now. Also click on the bell so you get notified whenever we post a new video. I have a lot to share. So in this video, I want to quickly show you how to make a Bubu Kaftan with yoke. Your yoke can be any material of your choice. It could be lace, net, organza, and so on. So for this particular bubu, I'm going to be needing 3 yards of the main fabric, and then I'm just going to be using half yard of my choice fabric for the yoke. And what I want to use is, that's for today, is a lace fabric. So I'm going to show us the process. So this is my 3 yards. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to be folding it. I need the whole of the 3 yards to make the bubu. I'm going to be using the 3 yards for the wide part of the dress. Then later on I'm going to measure out the length that I need for this particular dress. So for the 3 yards, you know how bubu is. Like the one I showed you at the beginning of the video, this one is actually going to be wider, because I believe that some of these fabrics that are up to 60 inches in length, they give you better results than our regular Ankara fabric, because Ankara fabric comes in 45 inches for the length. So what I'm going to do is to fold this part for the front and the back, and I'm going to be separating it. I'm going to be dividing it into 2. The 2 apart. The next thing I'm going to do is to measure the length, that's this width part. I want to know how wide it is, because that's what is going to determine the width of the lace that I'm going to be cutting. So I'll measure it from this tip to the end. What I have in total is 53.5. What I have in total is 53.5. So I'm going to keep this aside and measure the lace. This is how to measure your lace. That's the yoke part. We need, first of all, you have to determine what the length will be from the shoulder to where you want it to stop. For this tutorial, I'm going to be using 7 inches. Okay, no. For this tutorial, I think I would like to use 6 inches. I would like to use 6 inches because of the neck depth of the person that I'll be making this gown for. So it's not going to show her cleavage or anything. So I'm going to be using 2 inches for this particular tutorial. You can use 7. You just use the length as deep as you want the neck to be. So because I'm going to be using 6 inches, I'm going to be cutting it together. This yoke is not going to have any seam. It's not going to have any seam. So I'm going to be cutting both the front and the back together. So what I have to do is to fold this part. And then I'm going to measure out 6 plus ½ inch for a sewing allowance. So I'm going to measure out 6 inches plus ½ inch as sewing allowance. 6.5. That's what we have here. I'm going to measure it all through. Okay. Sorry, one of my principles is not to waste fabric. You know, this strip can always be useful. If you notice, I was measuring it from this point, but that would have meant that this place would be wasted. So what I'm going to do is to measure from this point to my 6.5 and then fold. I wouldn't like to waste fabric. You can always use this to make something, a band, anything. So permit me to start again. So like I said before, I'll measure out my 6 inches all through. Remember that what we got from the width of the fabric was 53.5 inches. So I'm going to measure this all through from this point till I get to 53 and half inches. Of course, I've already measured it and I know that the lace is enough. It's more than 53 and half inches. So let me continue. Okay, so I want to measure the length. What I need is just 53 and half, but in measuring it I noticed I have 57, but what I need is 53 and half. So what I want to do, because I want it to be uniform, if you notice, this part of the lace has a design and the other end too has a design. So I want the two designs to be equal. So I'm going to be removing the excesses from the 53 and half. 57 minus 53 and half will give me 3 and half. So I want to remove the 3 and half from both ends. So 3 and half divided into 2 will give me 1 and 1.75, that's 1/3. So I want to cut off 1/3 from the two ends of the lace. I'm going to cut them off so that they will be uniform. So now I have my yoke. The next thing I'm going to do, remember that it's unfold like this. Remember that it's unfold. So the next thing I'm going to do is to fold it again. I'm going to fold it again. Then I'm going to be cutting out the neckline. I'm going to be cutting out the neckline. Because it's not going to have a zipper and it's a free gown, I'm going to be making this, the width, 4 inches. I'm going to be cutting the the width is going to be 4 inches and the depth 3 inches. You can either use a curve, then I'll connect it with this curve. If you don't have a curve, you can always use your free hand. I'd advise that if you don't have access to a curve, you use your straight ruler to rule out this line and connect it to this one before making your curve manually. But if you have a curve, you can go ahead and connect it from this point to this point and mark out your curve. So we are going to be cutting out this part. You don't need the shoulder for this, you just need the neckline. So now our yoke is ready. What I'm going to do, remember that we cut off 6.5 inches. From that 6 inches, basically the half is just for the joining allowance. We cut off 6.5 inches and it's part of the full length of the gown. So what we are going to be doing next is this. We'll use a bias strip and finish off the neckline. That's what we are going to do. I'd advise that when you're using your bias strip, sorry, I don't have a bias here with me, but let me use this as an example. When you're using your bias strip, you start from the center, fold it at this end. You know the bias is already prepared, is like 1 inch. You fold it at this end and sew all through. You can decide to sew it from the front or from the back, depending on what you want. So you sew it all through, round, and when you get to this point, you stick them together so that by the time you fold, this part that is folded like this is going to be covering the other part and it's going to give you a neater finishing. So that's what we will do on this yoke. Now for the main fabric, what we'll be doing is to remove, what I need for this gown is 58 for the length. So what I'm going to be doing is to remove that 6 inches that I've already removed in the yoke from the full gown. So 58 minus 6 will give me 52. So what I'm going to be cutting out as the length of the main fabric is 52 inches for the length. Then I'm going to be adding extra 1.5 allowance for seaming it. So I've gone ahead to mark out the 52 plus the 1.5 inch for seaming allowance, both for the front and the back. Notching it now so I know where to fold from. Notches make sewing easy, you know. Assuming I decide not to sew this today and I quickly rush back to sew and I forget the length I'm about to use, just by looking at this notch I'll know where to fold. So I'll be notching the seam allowance so I'll know where to fold. The next thing you're going to do, remember I already told us that we'll be finishing this off with a bias strip. So this bubu is as good as ready. The next thing we are going to be doing is to attach the front and the back to the yoke. So what you do, you have the right side facing up, then the wrong side of this. Sorry, you have the right side facing the right side of this fabric. This is what you're going to do. I'm going to do it, run it with my machine, then I'll show you the outcome. So please always remember your width, because if you mistakenly use the height, if you mistakenly use the length, it's going to be a problem. But fortunately for us in this particular tutorial, both our width and our length is the same, because the width we got 53.5, and for the length, because the person's length is 58 and we minus 6 from the original length, we had 52 plus the 1.5 inch that we added for allowance, it became 53.5. So both the width and the length for this particular one is the same, but it may not always, coincide like this. So be sure that you are attaching the width to the width. So like I said, the right side of the fabric will be facing the right side of your yoke if it has. So we're going to run it by 1/2 inch in our machine. We are going to do this for the front, and we're also going to be doing the same for the back. We'll attach the back. When we are done, the next thing we will do is to fold the fabric. Now imagine that it's already attached. What we're going to be doing is to fold the fabric like this to the front. You know that you attach a bubu from the front. Okay, I think I would like to alter this style. Okay, I wanted to make a butterfly gown. You know, the one you run, assuming it's a butterfly gown, you run it, this is going to be facing the front. By the time you're done sewing, by the time you're done sewing, for the butterfly gown, you face it at the front, you sew from the front, and you can sew in straight line using the biggest part of your body, or you sew it and attach curves. I'm going to still show you that, but why I'm pointing out this is because of the alteration I want to make. Instead of making the usual butterfly gown, I want to do another style, so permit me to change it. I'm going to be seaming this down part of the gown from the inside. I don't want the butterfly to flow from the shoulder to the hem. So I'm going to be seaming the inside. I'm going to be seaming the down part, probably from the hip to the down. I'm going to be seaming it inside. Then I will now, that's inside, seaming it from the back of the fabric. Then I will now turn it to the front and finish off with a butterfly. Of course, I'm going to trim this edge so that it will fit perfectly. I'm going to show us that by the time I'm done. So let me get to the machine and join the front and the back to the yoke. So we've joined the yoke to the back and also to the front. We joined the yoke to the back and to the front, and we also went ahead and pressed the neckline so that it will be flat. We didn't have the bias of this color, so we used the lace also as a bias strip, as you can see. So the first thing I did is to fold it into two, to fold it like this. Folding it, you need to be sure that the front and the back are equal. So the way to ensure that is to make sure that this line where the yoke is attached is equal, both for the front and for the back. So I secured it with a pin so that it will be easier for me to get an equal measurement. going to go to the machine and I'll sew from this point down to this point, but I'm going to stop just before my 1.5 inch allowance. Remember, I notched it initially, but because we've cut off the excesses, we'll need to mark it again. So I'll sew from here to this point. I'm going to reserve this place for the hemming. Okay. Then after sewing, I'll turn it to the front and sew at the front from this point down to this point. Then I'll hem all this other area, and that will be the end of our tutorial. By the time I'm done, I'll show you what the gown looks like.